Good evening, or whatever time of the day it is there where you happen to be watching or when you happen to be watching. I'm hoping that the video quality will be all right. I found out um, after Sunday that the what do you call it? The video quality was not super great, and I don't really know why. I'm trying a different VPN location this time, so maybe that is part of it. And here at the beginning, I'm also just going to be organizing quickly here the albums we're going to be talking about today. It was a weird week for music. I'm going to be completely honest. Not that it was a bad week. There were actually quite a few good albums, and I think when I was typing up the little what do you call it explanation of what we were going to go over here today, I think I didn't really appreciate some of the albums when I was thinking over, but when I was looking at them again today, I came to the conclusion that yeah, I probably should have sold this a little bit better. Um, but ultimately, I think it's not a problem. It's just there were a lot of good albums this week, but I wouldn't say that there were any that are great necessarily. I don't think I'm getting burnt out on anything just yet. Um, and I know that there are albums this week that I'm stalling right, John, just so you know. And like I said, I'm just organizing everything. There are albums this week that I will definitely listen to again in the coming weeks that I'm looking forward to listening to again. But by and large, I'm not going to say, I don't think there's anything this week that I would include in the, like, I think this is going to be in the top albums um, of the year type of conversation. So, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to talk about this stuff. And okay, that goes there, that goes there. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. I have got everything in order. And yeah, the other thing I noticed the last 2 weeks now, there's been a bit of an issue with sound. I don't know. First, it seemed like it was Spotify. After that, it was Yandex Music, which I was going with. What I noticed upon reviewing the videos was that Bandcamp seemed to be okay. So this week, I'm going to be using only Bandcamp when available. And if Bandcamp's not available, then I'm just going to have to default over to Contactia. I'm going to hope that those sources, when it comes to audio, will be a little bit more stable. If that ends up being the case, then probably the situation is something with YouTube attempting to um, like filter out music. If that's the case, then I'll have to think of some goofy workaround. But as it is, let's get into it. We actually have 19 albums. So to give you an idea of how much I actually went through this week, 19 albums here. And I would say that there's probably another 5 or 6 that I just axed because they were not good. They were just kind of boring. And I'll be completely honest, even with that many albums listened to, I've got a bit of a backlog already, which, I'm going to try to get through it in the coming days. But, sometimes things slip through the cracks. I'm going to try not to let that happen. But, oh, and then obviously I'm going to promote it because I do every single week. Check out the singles list on Spotify. It is the same link from last week. If you've, I'll get Spotify open here and I'll put it in the chat. And then again, the playlist for Spotify will be in the description of the video after it's not live, after it goes up to the channel, as well as links to all of the albums on either Spotify or Bandcamp. As far as the singles list, the reason I want to share that is because even though there were a lot of albums this week, I feel like, okay, I'm not going to be able to share it right now because Spotify just won't let me log in. Even though I feel like there were a lot of albums this week, I feel like there were even more singles somehow. I have just probably 3 hours of singles to get through, hopefully, or try to. But anyway, we're going to start with rock music this week. And I'm going to try to just quickly go through some of these, which are, like I said, just they're good albums, not great, not like I said in the um, album of the year category type, contention. But let me go ahead and share the audio, share the screen. We've got the infinity screen. All right. So the first one up is by a band, Эрзац. I think that's how you pronounce it in Russian. Это будет хороший день. This is, I'm just going to, with these first albums too, kind of go really brief with the description. This is a noise rock outfit. Although it's not super noisy, there are moments in the album that kind of swing a little bit, and there's a bit of, it feels a bit more rhythmic than you would normally get maybe from traditional noise rock. But I would say if I had to compare it to a group, it is akin to Big Business. So I just realized I hate to do this. I know I was getting ready to play the music. I need to get my headphones in. 1 second. Okay. Because I got to make sure that the music is actually playing. So let me get these turned on. All right, Bluetooth is paired. Fantastic. All right, now we can go back. And now that I will be confident that you'll be able to hear everything. All right, I'm just going to jump into, I believe the second track is pretty solid. So let's see how it goes. So yeah, noise rock. Like I said, it does. I had to go back and listen to some Big Business to refresh my memory, but it's still. I'm still standing by that comparison. So pretty good. Again, this is basically an EP. Not basically, it is an EP. It's under 5 tracks and definitely under 20 minutes. So yeah, short little one to check out if you enjoy that noisier type of rock, a little bit things of that nature. All right, moving along. We're getting into Cyanide Grenade. Hell of a name. This group is out of Ekaterinburg, which honestly, the more I do this and the deeper I get into Russian music, the more I come to really appreciate the capital of the Ural Mountains. This is, if you can't tell from the album artwork, this is just it's old school thrash, but it's the new wave of old school thrash. So if you like Toxic Holocaust or Gamma Bomb, Bonded by Blood, any of those groups from that wave of modern thrash, you're gonna enjoy this. It's just a solid thrash album from start to finish. So title track. I mean, if you like thrash, this is pretty good. Also, the lyrics are in English. I don't need to play anymore. If you know what thrash is, you know what you're in for. It's a full album of it, and it goes like that pretty much from start to finish. So again, with an album like that, is it album of the year material? Probably not, but is it a hell of a lot of fun to put on and just sort of, yeah, I mean, if you like thrash music to kind of to groove along to, absolutely. And it does. I said it was the modern era, like the new wave of thrash, but it definitely does feel like it adheres a bit closer in terms of maybe production values to like the Slayers of the 1980s. But all right, after this, all right, we got to go to Contactia. This is Daredevil, which I believe you can actually see right there. Thrash metal and heavy metal. That is basically what it is. This is the classic 80s heavy metal and thrash metal sound. It's got the driving drums and bass and the shouted style vocals from thrash metal, whereas it has the sort of frenetic, really high, with all the tap work guitar solos from that kind of classic 80s heavy metal. It is a short album, all things considered. But what is nice is it's not just simply trying to emulate those sounds from the 1980s. It does feel like they've added in bits and pieces from other genres like emo or post punk along the way too. And you just get kind of a fresh, nice sounding result. So we're gonna go with the second track on this album as well. Let's give it a shot. A little bit of a listen. That little section right there is kind of what I'm talking about when I say they add in some of those more modern elements. You don't normally get the rim hits when we're talking about thrash metal or heavy metal in general. So nice little bit there. That's actually one of the I'll be completely honest. I listened to that maybe a few hours ago. It was one of the last albums I listened to while getting everything ready and putting this all together, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised. I wasn't expecting something like that. So, all right, moving on. We have uh, Vaktor dude or Vactor dude. I don't know exactly how you say this. This is the album here is. Oh, I realized I didn't say the album of the title of the last album. The Daredevil one was Recidiv. Recidiv, yeah, I think is how you say it in Russian. That was my bad. Vaktor dude here with Hippie Girl from Hell. This is an interesting one, and he deleted the playlist. That's pretty awesome. Huh. All right. Well, I guess I'm not gonna be able to play that. So that's let me give me a second here. I'm gonna try and find it all the same. Because the one thing about Contactia is they don't really care about authors' rights. So unless he was very thorough, it is entirely possible that the music is still on the site. Um, Let me take a look. Yeah. I wonder if it's due to the VPN. That is interesting. All right, I'm going to give Yandex Music a shot. Kind of surprising, all things considered. Honestly, the album, the Hippie Girl from Hell album, uh, I'll try to get this up here, but my little write up of it, just this good old rock and roll sound. It's an album, but it's split into two parts. So it's like two albums, but it's not. There's like five tracks and five tracks, basically. Um, but I would say the first half of the album is this kind of blues rock, more garage rock. I would say it's something. It's obviously not exactly like Jack White, but you could maybe compare it to Jack White. And then later on, it gets more, I would say, experimental in the second half. It still is rock and roll music, but you get some funk inspired tracks, and then there's one song that has a very doom stoner rock sound to it. It's just a smorgasbord um, of rock sounds, of classic rock sounds, of garage rock sounds. So, all right, it is on. It is on Yandex Music. So we'll go with that. This is the funk one that I was talking about. So we'll go with that. It's kind of a Yandex is going to load, and the audio quality is probably not going to be great here, but just to give you a taste, assuming it decides to load at all, it might not. Wow. Okay. Um, there it is.
В городе ночи я танцую фанк, и сердце бьется в такт, будто бы сейчас инфаркт будет. Люди забывают обо всем вокруг, так что ты не вспомнишь меня, друг.
So yeah, right. Just we got the a mix of styles there. It's again, it's short. Most of these albums are short. That's kind of the one thing. There's a reason I'm able to get through so many albums in the course of a week. It's because most of them tend to be less than 30 minutes. So yeah, definitely. I mean, if you like that sort of Jack White, more experimental but kind of more classic rock sound, then Vaktor Dude is going to be a good choice. All right, next up we've got the Second Place Takers with their Lethal Sport EP. This is it's prog rock, and yep, it is prog rock in the 1970s style, is what I would say. But there are definitely modern sounds in the mix here. There's again a little bit of emo thrown in, and then I would say that there are some more left field choices in the mix. There's sections of one of the song that has definitely a rockabilly vibe, and also just for anybody who is interested, there are English lyrics. So I think we'll jump into the last track here, if I remember correctly. It's also going to take a minute to load, I guess. This is the rockabilly I was talking about.
I am dead and empty, though I look alive. I'm long past 18, still I don't know how to educate an individual here inside my meat. Fill the gaps
Vocals,
in
a little bit like placebo at times.
Weeks and years, weeks and days.
But it wouldn't be prog if we didn't switch things up a little bit. So let's jump ahead. Okay, hold on real fast. I don't know why WhatsApp is open on the computer, but let me go ahead and take care of that because that's kind of annoying. All right. So yeah, going back to this. We got the organ. I guess this one's actually a little bit more straightforward. Obviously, the 9-minute track wanders a bit. So yeah, I probably should have. I didn't actually have the track written down here, so I just jumped in. But anyway, regardless, it's fine EP. There definitely is a bit more of the prog elementation going on in the second track, but moving along. I don't know how we say this. Tuami, I'm assuming. Super Zagnita. This, I also was not expecting this, and I was pleasantly surprised. This is, I would say, it's very much the pop punk from the era of the Warped tour, and it's mixed together with the Russian alternative rock from the same time period. So about 20 years ago, we'll say. Regardless if you're listening from the United States or I guess maybe in Europe, or if you're listening from here in Russia, you're going to find some sort of nostalgic vibe here in the music. It's done very well though, and there are some surprises here. For example, on "Предсмертный всхлип," this goes. It's just like a hardcore track thrown in there out of nowhere, and then obviously there's an acoustic one in there. But by and large, it is that sort of alternative rock, pop punk sound, and it's good.
Ни сегодня, ни сейчас, нет времени потом. Позже, может, через час, а лучше перед сном. Завтра или послезавтра, или в следующем году. Обещаю, не забуду, 100 пудов не подведу. Снова левые отмазки, все так же.
I mean, obviously there are tracks that aren't that pop punky, but it's nice. It's nice. It's not a genre that I would even say I listened to extensively when I was in middle school or high school or anything like that, or even into university, obviously. But there is something there that I don't know. It is nostalgic for me, the sound. So yeah, this is good if you enjoy that type of music, or again, like I said, if you're in Russia and you enjoyed like the alternative scene of, I would say, Naive is the group that most comes to mind, then you'll enjoy this album too. I want to say these guys are from Tula, but I don't remember exactly. So that's all right. Next up, we have Heskain, I think is how we say this. I would assume. Give it a second to load here. Their album, The Thickening of Darkness. This is a debut album from a group. They're from somewhere in Siberia. Don't really know where. Hopefully the Bandcamp page will load here relatively soon. This is a black metal group. And I've said before, I'm not a big black metal fan. In fact, I would say I really don't typically like black metal. Oh, I guess never mind. They're from Krasnoyarsk. It's right there. Or that's where the record label is. So, but yeah, we've got 8 tracks here. And the reason I put this on here is because it's not really black metal. It varies a lot from the traditional black metal formula. There's more rhythmic drumming. Not to say that there aren't blast beats, but there's just a lot less of them. The drumming feels more like your traditional, almost groove metal. There's tracks that have honest to God riffs that are kind of memorable or that you will get yourself into. Which it's not just the tremolo breakneck picking that you normally get with black metal. And there's actually one song where it just opens up and lets the bass kind of dominate for a little bit, which is something, as far as I can recall, I don't think I've ever really heard in black metal. So there's also definitely a dollop of the death metal influence in here. But yeah, realistically, the hallmarks of black metal are all still here, the vocals especially. So if you're into that type of genre or into that type of music, give it a shot. And we'll just jump into the second track here as well. Also in English, but I couldn't make out the lyrics and there are no lyrics available. So that's okay. If, like I said, if it's kind of black metal-ish, it's not really important. We're going to jump ahead a bit. This is a bit of that kind of depressive, what is it, ESBM kind of stuff that you might get. But so not very black. This is black metal-y. There's that rhythm, that kind of groove, drum fills. So yeah, for people who don't like that music, I apologize, but we'll get to the non-metal stuff here soon. But yeah, it's interesting. It's a debut album too, so we'll see how the group does in the future. But definitely worth a shot. All right, now the next one here is by a group called Nox Doloris, and evidently they've been at it for a while from St. Petersburg here. The album is Konstantinopolis, and I'm just going to use the band's description of the album. It is symphonic, oriental, blackened death metal, and it sounds like the most pretentious description that one could possibly come up with. But I would say just think of this as the Russian version of the group Nile, with the focus not being Egyptian mythology, but the focus being the history of what is now modern day Istanbul, right? When it was Constantinople, during its reign, obviously, as the seat of the Byzantine Empire. Again, to quote a description, or to use a description from the group, the lyrics paint an image of a ruthless world where anyone can become a victim and each battle is the last. Each song is about strategic rivalry, betrayal, and the need to fight for survival, in which all sides are ready to cross the line. Yeah, okay, right. Kind of over the top. I get it. But honestly, I love Nile. Nile's a hell of a group, and I feel like they don't really get as much attention as they should. Um, Obviously, the symphonic elements here make it a little less. Nile is a bit more of the technical death metal, so this is that symphonic edge to it. So it does take things down a bit. Oh, and I do want to point out too that there are moments here, especially in the drumming, which reminded me of the earlier era of Soulfly and Sepultura. So if you like any of those groups, Nile, Soulfly, Sepultura, you're probably going to find something here quite interesting. I want to jump into this one. I think this one was a good choice. Yeah. This got like the Soulfly vibe to it, right? The guitars got that oriental. I actually feel like I may not be giving this album enough praise. I feel like this is one of those that I'll probably end up rediscovering later in the year. But yeah, it's pretty solid. And again, the lyrics are in English, and you can actually read the lyrics here. It will give you a whole bit of that, like the everyone kill. I don't remember exactly how they described it, but that really over the top explanation. All right. Up next, Механизм Хиггса. Память заполнена. This is, well, they have rock, metal, alternative rock. I would say that this is kind of post metal, but the actual instrumentation a lot of times does feel closer to, especially the guitars, to emo or even post hardcore. And a group, if I had to pick a group that like kind of came to mind again, I would say the Dillinger Escape Plan, especially from the Ire Works era. So give this a listen. So, I mean, I don't want to say that's the best track on the album, but that's, I would say, the one. I don't know. It grabbed me the hardest. The first track's kind of an opener. The last track is kind of a closer. So you really just got the four tracks in the middle. You got a bit of a musical sandwich there, if you will. And yeah, the Antares. I don't know exactly. Again, there's no znak udarenia, so I don't know where to put the stress. Unfortunately, it's good though. It's nice. Again, 6 tracks doesn't take up a lot of your time. So, and yeah, if you like the Dillinger Escape Plan, you'll probably enjoy that to some degree. All right, so now we're going to get into the last 2, we'll say rock albums, because the last one's not really metal. But this one is Arbay Taraa. I think I'm saying that correct, but I'm not entirely sure. This is musically pretty run of the mill. It's this groove metal, the groove metal from about 2 decades ago. Now, granted, that is the metal that I consumed heaviest during my, we'll say, formative years of music consumption. So I'm partial to that groove metal anyway. But if that was the only thing about this album, then there's no reason that I would just bother to talk about it. It's the vocals and the instrumentation that we're here to talk about. And you might have guessed from the name Arbay Taraa that this isn't exactly Russian. It is from Russia. It's actually from the Republic of Tuva, which is all the way on the Mongolian border. And this music has the traditional throat singing, which some of you might be familiar with. It's common in Mongolia. And there are a number of modern Russian acts or modern musical acts from Russia which employ throat singing. So here you've got the traditional throat singing with traditional instruments from Tuva, and it's just worked into the mix. So yeah, just listening to this album, there were definitely moments where I was expecting, let's say, for example, Max Cavalera's growl to come in the mix, or even like a ooh ah, ah, ah type of thing. But instead, we've got the throat singing, and it's kind of awesome because throat singing in and of itself, I don't know what's going on, and it feels just like its own instrument, and it worms its way and intertwines with what's already going on in a very harmonic and natural sense. So, in terms of sound, it's familiar, it's warm, it's a bit like a security blanket, while being fresh and even exotic, I might say. So, all right, let's give a bit of a listen here. Groove metal, newish to it, real basic, but it's pretty fantastic, all things considered. And this is I don't want to say this is goofy because I don't know what's being sung, and I obviously throat singing is kind of in my mind an incredible thing. I don't really understand how it's done. So goofy's maybe not the right word, but in terms of how the vocals sound to the untrained ear, this is probably the goofiest of tracks. You have other ones such as this one, which are a bit more serious sounding, I would say. Assuming that the track starts to play again. Just gonna skip ahead. Oh yeah, got the sort of growls right there, but So yeah, a bit more serious, we could say, in some of the other tracks. But yeah, all in all, I like it. Obviously, I like metal. I like a lot of stuff with metal, and it's always good to see new ideas, new sounds getting introduced to the genre because fresh blood is always a wonderful thing. So, all right, the last we're gonna say rock album because this is not it's not metal. Um, this is post rock, and I love post rock. There's no getting around it. Post rock, post metal. Ever since I discovered Mogwai way back in the day, and even before, I think Mogwai, probably groups like Pelican and Russian Circles, though those are technically probably post metal. Um, all of it. I love the whole spectrum there, and I love it because it can either lull you into a meditative state, kind of as Mogwai is really good at doing. It can pummel you with unspoken rage, which Russian Circles and Pelican do a very, very good job with, or it can just create a very contemplative atmosphere, which would be, say, perfect for driving across vast, unpopulated landscapes, and your mind can just drift. Or it can also be used for when you need to be super productive if you're behind a desk and not the wheel of the car. That latter category, the one that creates the contemplative atmosphere, that's this album by Levithan, Above the Eternal Tranquility. Um, it's not immediately memorable. I will throw that out there. But then again, most post rock isn't. That's kind of inherent in a genre that doesn't adhere to the traditional structures of songwriting. Um, but I do have a feeling I'll be coming back to this album regularly when I need to sit and concentrate, to kind of let my thoughts swirl and coalesce a little bit. This is honestly an album I've already listened to two or three times when I was um, working on a script for an upcoming video, and I needed to kind of just find that zone, find that rhythm. And this album, honestly, it helped me find it almost immediately. So I I got a lot of respect for this album, and I think you should give it a shot, especially if you like having something to listen to while you need to get something serious done. Get to listen to me taking a drink of water. Okay, now here's the music. Very Mogwai-ish, Mogwai-esque. Especially with the piano there. Kind of like the hawk is howling. Violin. We're just going to jump ahead a bit here. The swells, sweeping kind of nature of the audio here. So I know too. I feel like with a lot of what happens now, especially on YouTube, and with how we consume video content nowadays, I feel like post rock has become one of those genres that people just churn out stuff at an accelerated rate. So it is nice when it feels like there is some thought put into the songs, and it feels like there's some emotion there, and I feel like that is the case on this album, Above the Eternal Tranquility. So yes. All right. Now we're going to switch over to the electronic genre a little bit. We actually have a few of those this week. The first one we are Looking at, I believe Bop is how this guy. Yeah, it's Bop. In when I see it, it reminds me of Vor in Russian, but I'm positive it's Bop because I had to type it in using Latin letters. So this is Bop. He has a little 4-song EP called "Mornings Are Overrated." So for all of us out there who are not necessarily morning people, we have 4 just simple ambient pieces. Actually, no, this is a quote. This is a quote from the guy right here. In fact, I don't remember where I found it, but Bop's description of the album is a couple of simply ambient pieces I made playing with my tape recorder and some synths. Nothing fancy, just me reflecting on the various moods that mornings can bring. So, and it does feel like that. It feels like the mixed mood of a morning in the late winter or early spring when you can feel that there's a change in the air. Summer is on the way, but you're just still not happy to be out of bed. And it's best to use that time to wake up slowly over a cup of tea or even coffee before you start your day. In fact, we'll give a listen to the first sip of coffee. It's very understated. But then again, if you want a little bit of some introspective time at the start of the morning, at the start of the day, this is the type of music that kind of fits that vibe. Very slow, quite ambient, although there is definitely some musical rhythmic idea there. But yeah, it does feel like the type of thing that's not in your face first thing in the morning, and that when your brain is slowly booting up for the day, that you'll be all ready to go from there. So, all right, now this is the opposite end of the spectrum when we get to electronic music. This is the Go Up to Here EP by Dream Selector. I'm normally not a huge fan of this type of music. This is the hard groove or hard house style of techno. It's that type of music that feels like everything's moving a million miles per hour. But I also found that I was just bopping right along with it, bopping right along with it, I guess. Jesus. So when I noticed that was the case, it's kind of a moment when I realized that, yeah, I kind of have to throw this in here. It's 3 tracks. There's not. I think part of what helps this EP out is that there are some nice vocal tracks kind of sprinkled in throughout that keep the music. I don't know. It feels. This is it's not bad, but it's kind of boring by itself. But it's building. And jump forward a little bit. I jumped too far forward. Yeah, we get those. So yeah, I know this. A lot of people, it's not their. That's not their thing. Generally speaking, it's not mine either. But I did enjoy this probably more than I normally would have otherwise. It kind of pushes you along as it is moving as well, but not in an aggressive way. Doing a conga line. All right, enough of that. So, um, I I haven't talked about it before, and I probably will do a better job of highlighting it next time. I don't actually have it open here in my tabs. There is a lot going on in the electronic music community here in Russia, almost as much as is going on in the metal community, which is quite a bit. Um, I don't really follow it though, because most of what gets published here for the electronic community is on SoundCloud, and the only way to access SoundCloud is via VPN, and I don't typically sit on VPNs. So if you are into mixes, DJ mixes and stuff like that, there are a few podcasts and stuff which I will not podcasts, but SoundCloud playlists, I guess, that update. One of them updates weekly with a new mix by a Russian DJ every single week. Is Paragraphs, if you want to hunt that down on your own. Um, and then there are a few others, but anyway, I'll try to highlight it from time to time, even though it's not necessarily my thing. This next one, which is the last one when it comes to electronic, is Disadaptatia, and their album Neva впадет в Амазонку, which any day now. And actually, I'm going to kind of click off of that for a second, just kind of come back here, just to check and make sure everything is everything working okay. If the sound is kind of wonky, let me know now. If it's working okay, then let me know that too. But all right, let's go back to music. We only have we have 6 albums left, so we'll be done here quite soon. But the Infinity Screen and Disadaptatia. Oh, come on. Okay. I'm guessing that has to do with oh wait, hold up. Okay. Give me just a second here. And we're going to go to Yandex Music again. I'm guessing that this is partially because of the VPN. I know sometimes, which is hilarious, because when you are on VKontakte in Russia, they don't give a shit about piracy. There is all of the music that's blocked on the official channels, on the official streaming services here in Russia, because of the war and when the contracts were kind of not canceled, but they didn't import. All of that's on VKontakte, and they don't bother to cut it down. But if you're outside of Russia, they make sure, evidently, sometimes to protect their music rights. So, all right, let me. We're gonna go through Yandex here. Okay, I got it. So, sound's been coming through good today. Excellent. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Brett. All right. So this earlier there was that group Levithan, the post-rock group, and I would say that this is the electronic counterpart to that album. It is it's a slate gray album of atmosphere. It's kind of brooding, but it's also in constant motion. The album uses field recordings of wind and water also to kind of create a more natural ambiance on the tracks. But I would say, for those of you who don't know, the Neva in the title of it's the Neva flows into the Amazon is what this means. And the Neva is the river in St. Petersburg. And this album creates that atmosphere. It's kind of how you might feel on a winter afternoon standing on one of the embankments in Russia's northern capital, staring out at the Neva River, and just, again, letting your thoughts get carried away forward unwillingly by unseen currents, just like the waters of the river in front of you, until you find yourself stirred from your reveries in some place unexpected and foreign. It's nice. It is a nice little bit. So let's jump into it. Give it a shot. Of course, now it's going to take a sec to load, but that's all right. It feels like ambient music, but there's something there. And it's more obvious on the tracks as well. There's the first little idea. It doesn't really demand your attention at any one point. Um, the final track, when it does get to the actual Amazon in question, there is a bit more of the what you might call tribal sounds as well. But most of the way to the Amazon, you're just floating down the Neva, and it's kind of peaceful. Not necessarily happy or bright, but it just is. And honestly, in winter, I kind of like this music. It's not stuff that I would want to listen to in the springtime necessarily or in the summer. In the late autumn, it starts to feel pretty good again too. But there is something specific about it in the winter. What that music, which you might describe as just simply gray. It's not depressive any more so than the weather is, and I feel like once you reach a certain age, you just understand it's the winter time, and that's how it is. You either move if you can't deal with it, or you accept it for what it is. And so, having a soundtrack or albums that match that mood, it's nice. I enjoy it. All right, now we're into the last stretch here. We're going to get into the pop and indie category because this week we actually had some pop and indie releases that are worth talking about. Now, the first one here is I don't know how you say this name, Minui. I think I'm assuming. Yeah, Visual в темноте. This is, I guess it's an EP or just a short album. This is indie pop without a doubt. The sound and the style varies over each and all. It varies pretty much from track to track, but all in all, it does try to maintain this darker lounge cabaret style atmosphere. Which, yeah, it's not bad. This is quite a small artist, just kind of popped up unexpectedly, as it does a lot of the time on my radar. Very loungy, I would say. Stick with that.
Не говори мне, что я застыла где-то там, где больше люди не живут. Не говори мне вновь об этом. Я ведь это не перенесу. Военный вечер и милость речи.
I'll be honest, the atonality of some of that, how the sounds clash a little bit, it can be a bit grating at times. That track in particular is like that. The other ones, I don't recall that being an issue. But yeah, it's fine. It's nice little pop. I'll be completely honest. Aside from some singles, this is the first, or I would say like the first pop style album of the year for me. So respect for what it is for throwing it out there. I feel like pop music doesn't start to really make an appearance until um, we get closer to spring for obvious reasons, right? We were just talking about the atmosphere of albums, and when you have pop music, you want it to match the vibe of the season. So mid to late winter is kind of an odd one for pop albums, I think, just in general, even in the States and in Europe. But okay, this next one, first of all, I love the artwork on it. It is loading, still loading. Now the picture is loading. Yes, love this artwork. Got the guy, just sort of. He's got a raccoon has the wanted. There's a chicken with an old Nokia cell phone. There's so much going on here. I love it. Оммаж is the name of the group, and yeah, you can see it. We got a little trio from down south in Russia, in Vladikavkaz, down in the Caucasus Mountains. 5 songs, about 11 minutes long in total. Just a sweet, short dose of a Russian take on Western Americana music, which, yeah, I never like. That's a genre that you just don't ever hear in Russia, and I like it. It's a fresh little take, and yeah, it's definitely. I'll be honest. I never thought I would hear slide guitar in Russian music, but yeah, here we are. So get this loaded. The waiting game. Judging by the Bandcamp too, I would assume that it's this trio's first output. So I hope they continue down this path. I'd like to see more of this.
Выкатывай фургон из гаража деда. Едем в тур играть рок-н-ролл где-то. Фургон несет вперед, не напролет. И мы всю ночь в пути играем рок-н-ролл.
I guess there's even like that's definitely some old, very, very, very old bluesy rock as well. So, but yeah, I honestly, these 5 tracks are not long enough. There aren't enough of them. So I really hope Оммаж in the future puts out more. I do hope they continue. It's nice. It's infectious. So, all right, final 3 here. This one, I wonder if it will open or if it will tell me it's not available. We'll find out. This is the record label. Wait, do they have a Bandcamp that I didn't know about? All right, just give me a second here. I just realized this link was here the whole time. And if I don't have to use Contactia, I really don't want to use. Oh, no. Yeah, I remember this link sucks. Okay, so the group, Youth Resort. The album, Godspeed, smiley face. I don't think you're supposed to say smiley face, but it's there, so I have to, recognize that it is. This, well, 2 moments of truth. One, this is not one of those albums that I just threw on this afternoon while I was doing some work, figuring it probably wouldn't be anything serious, and then I had to stop what I was doing and start paying attention to the music a little bit. And then I realized, I don't have enough time to really go through this as much as I would like to. So, second moment truth, largely because of the first one, I don't really know exactly how to best describe this music. I've seen it somewhere. It's I would say it's like kind of indie bedroom pop, indie rock, and electro pop. And if you use those 3 points to sort of triangulate the songs that you're listening to here, you're going to have a general idea of what this is, but you're still going to get lost in the details because it doesn't quite fit together into any really specified genre, which is fair, which I feel like is happening a lot with modern pop music, where it just sort of, especially indie pop, where it just kind of takes whatever it wants and smashes it together however it likes. Like I said, I didn't have a lot of time to dig into the album, just the one playthrough. Um, but if I had to describe it in a single word, I would say pleasant. In the same way that Toro y Moi, how that group has been pleasant across all of the albums that he has released. The ability to shift from sound to sound while at the same time always producing something that is calm and moving and beautiful in its own way. And I do have to point out as well, yes, of course, of course. Oh, so it did. Okay, yeah. Why am I even surprised? Okay. So, anyway, as I was saying, one of the big things about this album too is that it has the first youth resort. It has the first appearance of Zalatia Zuby this year, and I'm assuming most people watching this are in the States and don't understand. Zalatia Zuby put out one of the best albums last year, / one of the best hip hop albums last year. They're like the indie rap type stuff. I would describe them similar to the group Y from the Bay Area in the United States. And regardless, very good group, very sharp and good when it comes to music. And like they've got their finger on the pulse. They know what's going on. So the fact that they, lent their talents, I suppose, to this album is a big resounding endorsement, I would say, all things considered. So we can actually give that one a shot, Igla. Swear to God, most of the time it's just us waiting for the tracks to start, is how it feels.
Я не могу стерпеть от твоей любви, и это достал до глубины, закончится день. Расстались мы оба, как не теперь. Связать с этой иглы, с этой иглы.
Just pleasant. All right, and then one more here. Actual acoustic guitar.
Я хочу выше всех, навсегда в облаках. Хочу быть постоянно пьяным от того, что ты моя. Хочу почувствовать свою красоту. Знаю, кто я, помоги мне понять. Все никуда, это я.
So the fact that they're able to slowly layer on top of very simple flippers, got the bass, and on top of the saxophone, gets thrown on top.
облака, выше всех, навсегда на небесах, выше всех.
It's good pop music. It's good indie pop, electro pop, whatever you want to call it. Pop. It's good music in general, I suppose. And one listen today, probably not enough. Honestly, just listening to those two songs again right here, I've come to the understanding that I'm gonna have to come back to this. But we're down to the final two, and we got to talk about what I would say is the first big indie release here in Russia of the year, and that is. I probably shouldn't have closed that. Let me open that again real fast because I'm guessing that the next one after will not work either. But we're talking here about Kosmos na потолке, or Cosmos on the ceiling. It says they're from Tokyo, Japan. They relocated there. Yes, from Moscow, Russia, based in Tokyo, Japan. They relocated there recently, the entire group. And yeah, this was definitely the first big indie release of the year. The group in the past would have been squarely in the dream pop category, so sort of your, I guess, beach house type music. And the music is still very much like that. There's a lot of that sort of reverb and jangly guitars. The lyrics feel like they're laced through with longing and melancholy and all that stuff. But the group seemingly has expanded their sound. There's definitely more of the indie rock, I guess, sensibilities of groups like the Breeders and even a bit of maybe Sonic Youth, you could say. So, yeah, it's definitely. I don't think this is going to be one of the best indie albums of the year, but it's a nice album, and there are definitely some good songs on there. And without a doubt, probably the best song on the album is the second one, Tseluyu, which is like kisses, I kissed you, Tseluyu. And it's a solid track. And I hope it starts soon. It's catchy. And like the Breeders.
Мне приснился сон о том, как я целую яблоки, целую море, целую
It's a hell of a song.
на ладони. Хочу раздеваться.
Like the Breeders, 100%.
Каждодневность, какая ты сейчас. Не пытайся лишить меня. Это просто бесполезно, но я все равно сбегу. Осталось только определить время и место. Это просто бесполезно, но я все равно сбегу. Осталось только определить время и место.
So even though the album might not be altogether like just some life-changing thing, that song I feel like I could just have on repeat for a solid hour before I decided it might be time to turn it off. It is very catchy. And the other tracks are not bad by any means. Not Sonic Youth is not. What was I? What's the group I wanted? Not Sonic Youth that I was thinking of earlier.
Проснись, это капли дождя, укутайся в сумрак, открой. Первая сигарета этого лета была сегодня 9:00. У меня в голове розовый туман, когда он легко коснулся.
That whole the guitar in the background there, kind of doing its thing, kind of gives me Dinosaur Jr. vibes as well. So that whole era of alternative, I guess, alternative rock, indie rock, underground rock, whatever you want to call it. So Yeah, it's a good album. It is a good album without a doubt. And I probably would have ended the segment with it if it weren't for this 3-song EP by Bureau, which I'm probably going to have to open on Yandex Music because of how Contactia works. So, I'm just going to go over there right now. Let's do that. Bureau. It would be nice if I could type correctly. All right. We're just going to, to hell with. And I'm just going to open their albums real fast. Homo Sinceris last year was an album I listened to earlier in the summer, and I was surprised. And this is Homo Sinceris and their new EP, Askolki Maya Gibernatsia, or Shards, full stop, My Hibernation. This EP, Homo Sinceris, I'm assuming that the rest of their output, it's that kind of pop and R&B mix, which is somewhere between James Blunt and How to Dress Well. It's just really good. And I'm really happy to see that they've been busy since then. You can see here that there are 2 of these Askolki, Prognoz Pagodi, Maya Gibernatsia. It's going to be part of the trilogy, so there will be a 3rd one coming out, I would assume sometime in the spring, based also on the color pattern. So we've got autumn, winter, and then spring. And the reason that this is so good is that all 3 of the songs are focused on the cold. The first one, literally in the first, it's literally about the cold. And the second 2 are about kind of coldness in relationships and in emotions. Honestly, though, this first track, Ya Обязательно, which means I definitely will, I 100%. It is the perfect winter anthem for those areas right now, like as far as I understand, in the States, that are actually getting the winter season this year, where it is actually really cold and you're getting snow. The songs are all just beautiful, even if melancholy is the overwhelming emotion. But this whole song is about just wanting to wrap up in a blanket and just stay there for the rest of the winter. And I'm sure a lot of people can identify with that sentiment. Musically, it even kind of feels cold.
Утром мороза узоры разглядывал, тестами Роршаха окна мне кажутся, сбитых сосулек осколки на пальцах. Так начиналась моя гибернация. Дома так жарко, что нужно проветривать. Пахнет холодом и сигаретами. Под одеялом уютное царство. Там поселилась моя гибернация. Я обязательно встану на ноги по весне. В марте или когда там уже растает снег. Я буду вместе с солнцем вставать из кровати.
Powerful.
Если сел в воде.
It's so good. I can't get over it. And honestly, I love the lyrics too. He's just talking about how when the spring comes, I for sure will be getting up. I for sure will be getting out of this blanket. There might even be the emotional coldness there, kind of a breakup thing. Or it could just be it's goddamn cold. He doesn't want to get out. But then that music and the warmth with the music, it's so well put together. And yeah, I honestly think Bureau here is we'll see what they have to release later this year too. Like I said, there's pretty clearly going to be an EP, I would assume, in the springtime. and then maybe if we're lucky, we'll get like a full length in the summer or in the autumn at some point later in the year. But that the way it just swells and picks up, and the vocals are phenomenal too. It's yeah, it's a hell of an EP, and it's so short, but all the songs are so good and so solid. And I just haven't heard music like that for some time, honestly. Like I said, probably in the early days of James Blunt, or maybe later days, but and then How to Dress Well, and some of that kind of, I don't know, dark bard type of music. But that's what we got. So 19 albums, we got through it, I guess, relatively quickly. I thought I would go a little bit faster, but I forgot that it takes forever for the songs to load. I also uh, didn't realize that Contact was going to be a pain in the butt. So yeah, hopefully the music, it seems based on the response I got, seems like the audio worked more or less okay. So that's good. Maybe it was just a VPN situation last week. And yeah, I'll be back Sunday evening at 9 p.m. Moscow time, 12 p.m. Sorry, noon Central for those of you in the States. And I'll be doing the news, just kind of going over everything. It's been kind of a quiet week, what with the inauguration, and that's good. That means hopefully it'll be quiet for the next few days as well. And then yeah, next week on Wednesday, it'll be the final week of January. So it'll be time to start talking about the best albums of the month, which means I'm going to have to start thinking that through as well. So anyway, hopefully you heard something there that sparked your interest. I will hear a little bit later, like I said, after the video gets processed and gets kicked over to the live section of the channel. I will go through and add links to all of those albums on Spotify, or if that's not an option, it'll be on Bandcamp. And then yeah, and then you can kind of go through and hopefully give some of that stuff a listen if there was something that you enjoyed there. So everyone have a good evening or a good afternoon, depending on where you're at. And if you tune in on Sunday for the news, I will see you then. Otherwise, I will see you back here next Wednesday. Until then, take care.